And today we'll be looking at how to use the 991CW to solve questions like these, where you have a grouped frequency distribution with frequency given and the range given. So most calculators have a way to show you the final summations of all these columns. However, in the exam, we'll have to fill all of these cells individually and also do all these calculations individually. Like say here, I'll have to do 65 into 1, 75 into 3, and all of them manually, and I have to write them down here. However, there's an easier way to do this. Or we can automate all these calculations and have it displayed all at once by using the spreadsheet option in the 991CW. So let's see how that works. So here we have a distribution 60 to 70, 70 to 80, up to 100 to 110. And we take the mid values as we do usually and write down the frequencies and sum up the frequencies. And from here, we are going to use our calculator, go to the spreadsheet option and make sure everything is deleted. So go to tools and go all the way down to delete all, which ensures that our spreadsheet is empty. So the first step of this would be to type all the given data. So let's type the given data. We have to make sure that we type all this correctly so we don't make any mistakes. So we can see that we have entered the values in the column A and column B. Note that the spreadsheet has only 5 columns. So now that we have these columns ready, the next step we have to do is find out fi into xi for each. So instead of doing it individually, we can go and use the formula option that this calculator provides. So just move to the cell, but do not click on OK, and then click on Tools, and the first option we have is Fill Formula. So the formula we'll want is to multiply the first two rows, that is the the first two columns, that is the xi and fi columns. So what we'll do is click on Shift and 4, that gives you A 1, into Shift 5, that gives you B 1. And we are going to put the range as the number of values we have. So we have a total of 5 different values. So we're going to do C1 to C5. So what this does is we can see that the value of C1 has a value of A1 into B1. And when we go down, the cell automatically has a value of A2 into B2 and so on. So the advantage of the formula is that it automatically applies it to all the other cells, even though I've written the formula just for A1 and B1, just because I've set the range from C1 to C5. So now that we have this, we'll need the summation of this to find out the mean later on. So instead of adding it yourself, there is another default function for this. So now we click on the cell, activate the cursor, and now we'll need the summation option. So we click on catalog here, click on spreadsheet, and then we go to the last option, which is sum. And we'll see that we have a sum option here, and we'll need to add the values from C1 to C5. So let's do that. Let's click on Shift 6, that gives us C1, and we need a semicolon. So we'll have to go back to catalog, spreadsheet, and we'll take the semicolon here, C1, 2, and Shift 6 again, and 5. So this will give us the sum from C1 to C5 and output it in the C6 cell. As you can see, the value is given as 1485, which is the required value. So now what we're going to do is we have to calculate this value, the difference between each individual middle value with the mean. For that, we have to first calculate the mean. So what we can do is we have the summation here and we have the sum of f, that is 17. So let's go here and we can just directly write 1485 divided by 17, and we'll have the mean in the C7 cell of the spreadsheet. So now that we have the mean, So now we'll have to subtract each individual x value with a fixed value, that is the mean, which is 87.35 approximately. So what we can do, we can go to the next column, go to fill formula again, and there's two ways we can do this. So our xi values are in the A1 column, so let's click on, sorry, A1, and then minus, we can either just write the rounded off mean value like this, and we could set the range from D1 to D5, and that would work perfectly. But if you don't want to round off the mean value like this, you could use an absolute cell reference. It's okay if you don't want to use this, but if you do, you could skip this part of the video. It's not that important. So you could go to spreadsheet, use the dollar symbol, and do this. C7 is the cell in which the mean is calculated. So what this is going to do is, it's going to calculate the mean directly for you. Sorry, calculate the values that are required in this. So as we can see, we have this column's values, x minus x bar, in the D column. And as you can see, when we go to the next row, A1 changes to A2, but the C7 remains the same. If I did not use the dollar symbols, it would have become C8. And unfortunately, we only need to reference C7. C8 is just empty. So I want to make sure the spreadsheet knows that it only has to pull values from C7 at all times, which is why I've used dollar, which is known as absolute referencing. So now that we have this, we can calculate the values for, so we have calculated the values for x minus x bar. So now we'll have to calculate fd square so that we can find out the central moments. We know that mu1 for any distribution is always 0, so there's no need to find out fd. So let's find out fd square directly. So let's go to our last remaining column. Always make sure you're on the first cell before entering any formula. Let's go to fill formula. And for fd square, the frequency is in the B column, and the D, let's just check where the D column is again. It's in this. So x minus x bar is in the D column. So we'll fill the formula as B1 times, so let's do D1 into shift D1 again, so that we get the square of D1. We need the square of x minus x bar. So that's why we are multiplying D1 into D1, and B1 is just F. And always remember to change the range, otherwise it won't work, E1 to E5. So it shows you all the values. So this gives us the value of this column. And the important thing to realize is that spreadsheets have only 5 columns. So the only way to proceed from here is to make sure you write down this. Oh yeah, and we'll have to do the summation for this column, which is again simple. Go to catalog, spreadsheet, and sum, and the usual way, just do E1 catalog colon, and we do E5. So we get the summation of fd square. We get the summation of this, and we can use that to find the second moment like this. So we essentially got the sum. So that's just 2105. So the answer would be 2105 point whatever by 17. So that would give you this value. Similarly, you could repeat the same. So you could delete a column. So let's just delete this column itself. You could just go to each cell and click on backspace without pressing OK. Sorry. Yeah, so once we delete a cell, now we have already calculated fd square. So now we need fd cube. And So it's the same procedure, except that we do B1 into D1 into D1 into D1 so that we get this cubed. We get this cubed and we get it in this column. So you do that and then it's the same, get the summation for that column and then the same thing, the summation of that column. So the advantage of using a spreadsheet in CW is that it greatly reduces the time taken. And even if you're fast enough calculating it by yourself, it really reduces the chance of mistakes as everything is automated. So yeah, so that is an advantage of the 991CW and also the spreadsheet function. There's also a function for statistics. You could just go to two variable and sorry, let's just disable the frequency here. Yeah, so you could just enter the values for x. You could enter the mid values in the x column and the frequency in the y column, and it would directly show you the like all the summations that we require, but it won't show you these individual sum values, which is where the spreadsheet is much more useful. And I'll also link a video in the description which has the methods on how to do questions on regression uh, and curve fitting using the least square method. That also can be done using the statistics option, but there's already a video on it, so I'll link it in the description. So yeah, if you have any questions or if you feel there's anything wrong with this video, do let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.